Today on the bench we have another Cobra 140. Look out, camera! Another Cobra 148 GTL. Customer actually sent two 148 GTLs in. The other one is a DX version. He's not even sure about the operating condition of that one, and I haven't checked it yet either, other than to see that it was not damaged in shipping. This one's in extremely nice condition. It's not what I would call mint new out of the box, but it's about as close as you're going to get. It's been used, but yeah, very lightly and well taken care of. Bezel's in really good condition. He basically just wants a 100,000 mile tune-up on this, so replace the electrolytic capacitors. It looks like somebody's already gone through this and kind of removed the glue. I say kind of. You can see it running down the VCO block here. Now, honestly, the glue that's on the block itself, you really don't have to worry about. If you do these yourself, removing glue, the only places you really have to worry about actually removing the glue is anywhere it's touching metal. So if it's touching the leads, mainly the leads on any of the components, that's what it'll kill. If it's on like these green polydip capacitors, on VCO blocks, plastic, it's on the insulation of a wire. It's not going to hurt that stuff. What it kills is metal, ferrous or non-ferrous metals. It's just the lead, tin, copper, everything we use in electronics to conduct electricity. That's what that stuff eats. But it doesn't look like they pulled the VCO block out, so I can still see there's a lot of glue residue on all of the leads, and that's what you want to do when you get glue that's oozed down and it's actually down on the pins. You actually want to remove the component to get all that nasty glue off before it eats the leads off. So the radio appears to be in decent working condition. Now, he was actually kind of concerned because he bought this on eBay apparently, and it was supposed to be a pristine, untouched radio. And when he opened the box up, he found this, apparently. What's this say? The Otis T. Fud Pucker. That's got to give you a laugh, if nothing else. The Otis T. Fud Pucker. 148 Cobra channel kit. I guess that's a phone number. But I don't really see what kind of a channel kit it is. From the looks of it, it was a switch mod. So it's not like there's a channel expansion board or a crystal, like the old Expo kits where it's a crystal, it switches different crystals in. Yeah, this is just a switch mod. Which position, because it uses the switches. Now, I looked at the radio. It doesn't have any mods, so I don't know. Now, it had at some point in time, from the looks of it. So if we just really quick, just unhook that, flip it over, we can see it's had cut traces and it's been bodged back together. We focus. I mean, you can see the track was cut right there. So it had a channel mod, so it must have had the Fuddrucker or Fud... What is it? Pucker? Fud Pucker. It must have had a switch mod at one point in time, and I guess it was removed. So, I didn't actually check. Well, no, the bright dim works. I don't have a microphone. Well, once I get this hooked up to the test set here, I'll check and see if the high-low tone works. But yeah, the switches look like everything's hooked up, so I don't know. Maybe they had... there's no extra holes, so I don't know. It definitely had a channel kit. They had cut traces of it's a dead giveaway of it having a channel modification. But, so, let me just see. Haven't really done much testing. I basically just hooked it up, shoved the signal into it, turned the volume up, and yep, it's receiving. It's about all the testing I've really done with it. So let me get a little test board in here. Get an audio source hooked up for transmit. And let's see. Put it in receive. Yeah, high-low switch. So, I don't know. I guess it had the Fudpucker switch mod. Put that in quotations. At one point. I like that. I don't think I'd ever want anything called that in my radio, but you got to admit, that's about a funny sounding name for a modification. So in any case, yeah, radio receives and the switches, I don't know how, yeah, you can see the bright dim works in the camera. High-low works, so I don't know. It's hard to tell. So it does receive. That's, what am I putting into it? Minus 90 dBm right now. Come on, cameras, get up there. Putting minus 90 in it right now. It's around 110, so it's actually not receiving too bad. So the alignment's not too far off on the receiver. And it doesn't really matter where I put that. So let's see what the transmit. I'll actually just leave it up here. And we'll flip it into transmit. And what do we got? 37 dBm, so that's 5 watts. So I got to turn this down. I don't know if you can see it in the camera or not, but right there, the peak is 37 dBm, so that's 5 watts, which is a watt too high. So it's been screwdriver. Now the carrier pot's not turned the whole way up, so they didn't screwdriver it too bad. There's 36 dBm, so that's 4 watts. And let's add some modulation. 1000 hertz, 20 millivolts. And that doesn't look too bad. Turn the oscilloscope on here. Let's see what that actually looks like. Take this out of transmit while that boots up. And that's just connected to the IF output on the service monitor up there off the RF board. And yeah, it does look like the modulation trimmer's cranked. That is cranked full rotation. And yeah, it's over modulating. Not horrible. You can see it's flat line in there. Just barely almost starting to deform a little bit at the top. So let's get this turned down. Alright, looks pretty good. Right about there. And back up to the spectrum display. So, yep, that looks pretty good. So, take her back out of transmit. So, yeah. Now, what does the customer want done? So, like I said, once the cap's changed, turn the volume down. Once the cap's changed, like I said, I'll get the little bit of glue. Most of it's out, thank God. Most of the hard work's done. Really doesn't need a lot other than that. None of the limiters are clipped, so, you know, this wasn't a butchered radio. You obviously just saw I just adjusted the modulation, and if the limiter circuits had been disabled, I wouldn't have been able to adjust anything, so, you know, that's good. So it hasn't been hot rodded too bad. Somebody just turned a carrier up to 5 watts and cranked the modulation pot maximum, so they were a little bit distorted, not horrible. The other thing he does want done to this is he wants a channel expand, one of the Channel King boards installed. So other than that, that's really all it needs is change the caps, a little bit of glue, install the Channel King board, transceiver alignment, and this thing will be ready to go. And actually, thank God it didn't have the channel mod, because there's one thing I really hate doing on radios. You know, if it's got toggle switches, now I really hate toggle switches when people drill holes in the cover, you know, top or bottom covers. when they're sticking out the back side of the radio, I don't feel too bad about that, because honestly, you never look at the back side of the radio, so, if you remove toggle switches, well, you'll never see the holes. What I hate is when people do the channel mods, and they use all of these switches. Now, it's easy enough to just remove the wires, but then to re-enable all of this, this can be a bit of a nightmare. If you've ever done one, you'll know what I'm talking about. When somebody has 3 or even all 4 of these switches rewired for channel modifications, and you have to put it back to factory, and they didn't just cut the wires off and tie them off in here, they remove them from the circuit board. Now you've got a it's a bit of a bird nest trying to look at the schematic and look in this radio and see, looking at the schematic and it says, attach the, a wire that goes here should be attached to, let's say, R36 or some point in this radio. Yes, but where at in the circuit? R36 could be over here, but there's no saying that the trace doesn't run way over here and it hooks up, the wire actually attaches over here somewhere. So yeah, reconnecting switches can be a bit of a pain in the hoo-ha a lot of times, but yeah, I'm happy to see it's pretty much unmodified. I guess actually it is unmodified. Any of the modifications that were done to it look to have already been undone, and there was nothing clipped, so yeah, it's modification free right now. So, in any case, let me get to recapping and channel kinging, and next time you see this should have a couple hundred channels and some fresh caps and a fresh alignment, and be ready to go. So, I shall return. Okay, so she's all done except for putting the covers on it. You can see I've got it here in scan mode at the moment. Not really much on air. It's late at night. There was some skip coming in earlier today, but yeah, it's pretty much dead now. So, sun's long been down. But good working radio. A few little things that I did find that it needed done. Actually, I guess really only one additional thing. Don't know how I missed it originally. Nothing major. But it did have a... and it would explain why the sideband was distorted on this thing. 'Cause I did a double tone test, which is how you adjust... When you're adjusting the ALC on a radio, a sideband radio, that's what you do. You inject a double tone of 2 non-harmonically related audio frequencies. And that's actually also a good way to adjust your driver and bias. A lot of times you can adjust the driver and bias by current, and that's good for the most part. But if you really want to fine tune your bias adjustments, and actually even your 54 megahertz, it'll actually help to cut down on harmonics getting out of the radio, because they won't be created when you do your double tone test. Actually try, and it doesn't work on every radio. I've had spotty luck, and it's not just, I don't mean all 148. That actually works fairly well on the 148 chassis. But from different models and manufacturers of radios, that procedure works good on some of them, and it doesn't work very well on others. So that's one of those ones you almost have to try, chassis to chassis to see which ones that works on. But anyhow, I had noticed the sideband audio was distorted a little bit, and of course, when I'm injecting a double tone signal into this, it's coming out of a very low distortion signal generator, and the levels are exactly the same within a thousandth of a volt. Very, very precise signals coming into this. And they were off. One peak was here and the other peak was way down here. So, yeah, it obviously had problems. And that's because it was cranked. It was cranked up for starters, but it also had, and you'll see it very, very frequently. You turn over any radio that looks kind of like this board layout, because this board has been cloned and copied and modified, over the decades several times. But if you got one that looks like this, has an IC sitting right down. You can't see it now because it's underneath the Channel King board. But when you flip your radio over, if you find a resistor bodged onto that IC on the bottom going to a ground trace, take it off. It's a high power modification, and that's all that does. It creates distortion. So it's best not to do those. So you can see, board clean. I took that off. Like I said, really wasn't much else to it. Cleaned up a few solder traces. There were a few of them that were looked like they might be getting ready to break out. So I just, fixed those up, did the recap, cleaned the board off, looks really nice. Did pull the VCO out and cleaned the glue that was actually still on the leads off. Like I say, luckily somebody had already removed the majority of it, so that wasn't a very, very hard task in this one. Other than that, no surprises. Fairly straightforward. Cap job, a little bit of cleaning, not a lot, because you can see it's clean radio to start with. Install the Channel King board, and that was pretty much it. So, there's a nice working radio, and just in case I think this is a Philippine, yeah, this made in the Philippines version. It's what, a 412, I think. Yeah, PC 412. Actually, you can just see it in the camera right down there. PC 412 AF. So yes, the PLL has been removed and the adapter board's in there. So it has the 1450-106 adapter board. And now with the Channel King board, not only has the extra channels, memory channels, scanning, with the interface cable in here that it taps into the squelch circuit for the scan mode, so the processor knows when the radio's in or out of squelch. It's also attached to the microphone jack. Several wires come over and attach to or intercept wires going to the microphone, because for starters, one thing when you install this board, if you install the accessory cable, you no longer need a microphone plugged into the radio to hear the audio out of your speaker. Because of this board takes the place of it. The receive wire gets routed over to this board. It's no longer attached to the microphone jack anymore. And then you intercept the transmit line, and that's actually what the little relay here on this board, part of that is for the switching circuit. But yeah, like I say, one of the other advantages of having this board is you don't even need a mic plugged in to hear received audio, which you would normally need on one of these radios. So there you go. Basically just need to put the covers on it, get tape off the bezel, and one last wipe down before I box it up, and then it'll be ready to head back. And then I can crack into the next one, which is another 148 GTL. The only difference with that one is it's a GTL DX. So it's the export version. Customer doesn't know anything about it, hasn't tried that one yet. He knew this one worked, saw that paper with the FUD, shoot, I don't even find the paper, FUD something. It was supposed to have the FUD pucker, but apparently I guess that modification had been removed. I still get a kick out of that, the name of that. Yes, I'll get cracked into that one, and we'll see if that one even works for starters, because I don't know. But there you go, another Cobra 148 GTL with a Channel King board installed.